FM News Talk 97.1.
On demand audio. You're listening to Allman in the Morning. Common Sense Radio.
Good morning, you bunch of drunks.
Hello?
You know, it is funny, though.
Hello?
Bob was on the phone. He couldn't hang on. And said, you know, with all the people trying to hide their money, to Jim's story. You know, Jim was on the phone earlier. It was hard to understand him, but you could hear how he's trying to explain. He said, he's like, a guy next to lived next to Tom Cruise, and he had a house over there in Connecticut, and then he was in Florida, and he sold his house, and then he took it to the bank, and he couldn't. And then you're like, I understood exactly what he was saying because I have headphones that are on really loud. But those of you who are, you know, in your cars, it's hard to hear the story, but let's put it this way. It was convoluted, but it was a great story. And it was a story about how complicated our tax structure is and our code is, and every transaction is considered a capital gain and blah, 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 and it's just like a nightmare. And so Bob, who couldn't hang on, said, with all these people trying to hide their money, why don't we just kind of have everybody kind of keep their money? What a great idea that would be. Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, you wouldn't have people, you know, trying to going to the Cayman Islands and seeking shelter if you didn't have an oppressive government like we do. I mean, I think hiding your money from the government is as American as apple pie. I mean, as long as it's legal, but the government provides all that for you, all those legal ways of avoidance. The rub is, if you're a person who can't afford an accountant, well, why are you in less of a position than the person who can? That's the problem. You shouldn't have to have an accountant to get you through the tax code in this country. It's ridiculous. So that's what we're saying. Anyway, we'll take more of your phone calls. Sandra Smith is on the way. We'll talk more about this. We'll also get into the lightning round here. Also, we're hearing that story that Denise is telling you about the book at the Brentwood Library that is called, is called, but is not there anymore temporarily, called Uncle Bobby's Wedding. 2 male guinea pigs who got married, and a father complained, and it's been pulled from the shelves temporarily until they decide what to do with it and whether or not they're going to pull it off all the way. So, fully. So we'll talk more about that. I have my opinions on that, and hopefully you do too. 969-9797, 866-455-9797. Mitt Romney has a new ad out. Check it out.
His policies haven't worked. Median income's down $4,300 a family, and 23 million Americans out of work. He said that he'd cut in half the deficit. He just hasn't been able to put in place reforms for Medicare and Social Security to preserve them. That's what this election is about. It's about who can get the middle class in this country a bright and prosperous future and assure our kids the kind of hope and optimism they deserve.
I'm Mitt Romney, and I approve this message.
That's all from the last debate, and that should tell you everything you need to know about, in my opinion, how he did in that debate. Now, here's the thing. 65 point something or other million people watched that debate. I was wrong pretty much about everything I said about that debate.
How many did you say?
65 million people. It was only 2 million people less than the number of people who watched the first one. So, first of all, I said nobody was going to watch the debate. Totally wrong. Secondly, I said that it would be just a complete Obama affair and, you know, Candy Crowley would be messed up. I was right about that to a certain degree, but Romney came out way ahead, in my opinion, and did great. And so it wasn't nearly the kind of battle of Bighorn that I expected it was, Little Bighorn that I expected it was going to be. So I was wrong on a couple of things. Carl made sure he wrote that down so he could put it in the week that was. Carl, I could say brilliant things, and Carl misses them every week. But the one where I'm criticizing myself, I know that's going to wind up in the week that was. That's my executive producer right there. Thank you, Carl.
I was writing the
bull crap. Here, speaking of Carl's, here's Karl Rove basically digging Obama's grave.
Romney, particularly after this debate, has moved into a lead. You saw it in the Gallup poll that you talked about, 6-point lead, 51-45. Yesterday it was 50-46. This is the first time that Romney has hit 50% in the Gallup likely voter poll, and the president has never hit 50% in the likely voter poll. And no candidate who has led in mid-October with 50% or more in the likely voter poll has ever gone on to lose. Every one of them's gone on to win.
Wow. Yeah, so no wonder President Obama is on the stump literally begging people, I mean his own people, to vote for him.
Your vote. I want your vote. I am not too proud to beg. I want you to vote.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. These people all came out to a rally of his, and he's begging them to vote. I mean, they're already obviously presumably voting, so maybe he's telegraphing that to the rest of the country to, I want your vote. I'm begging you. I'm not too proud to beg. But why would you have to beg for the vote? Why don't you just tell people why you want to vote for me instead of actually just simply making it a matter of begging? I mean, if you're just begging for something, you're clearly not giving anything in return. Isn't that kind of what begging is? Mm-hmm. Is that what begging is? Like a beggar just doesn't do anything but have his hand out, right? So maybe is that what Obama's doing? He just has his hand out for the vote, but isn't promising them in return. I mean, if you want somebody to vote for you, tell them why.
No reason, yeah. Instead
of begging them. Joe Scarborough had this issue with Romney in the debate. I mean, we're not going to talk too much about this because it's all water under the bridge now, but felt that President Obama didn't get the proper respect from
You don't run over the president
Romney.
of the United States, whether that president's a Republican or whether that president is a Democrat. There are independent voters who believe that a president should be treated with deference because he is the commander-in-chief.
I think you do it carefully.
More in sadness than in anger.
Yeah, boo-hoo. Listen, that was the arena they chose. That was the situation they chose. If they wanted Obama to be treated, whatever, respectfully or whatever they wanted him, they should have had him in his own gilded chair so that Romney could simply speak to the gilded chair